Good morning. Welcome to the Motor Life F1 podcast. I'm your host, Limo Taboy. We are now starting the 2024 season with a very special guest, Mr. Kelvin Jumba. Kelvin, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Limo.
Today is Thursday. We're a few days to the Australian Grand Prix, which will be in Melbourne on Sunday. And I was really looking for somebody like you to give us insights about Australia. But we'll start with you. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Kelvin Jumba. I'm from a professional end of view. I'm in the financial industry. But of course, aside from that, of course, we have another life, which is the hobby side and what you do as a part-time. So I'm into Formula One. I'm also a polo player. I play at Nairobi Polo Club, where I also serve as the club treasurer for the Nairobi Polo Club itself, and also the treasurer for Kenya Polo Association.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about polo in a few minutes. How did you get interested in F1?
I think nothing really to point at, but I think just growing up, of course, TV was rarely available. So if you had it in your house, you would basically maximize on having time on it and just seeing what's happening. And I remember those early days. You would see some races here and there, rallies and everything. So I think just that being accustomed to seeing it regularly on TV, then of course just developed interest. Of course, as you grow up, then you start realizing that there are several lines in terms of racing. So for me, I picked out Formula One because I think it's just the intensity and of course the experience that comes behind it. So that's how my interest developed.
Today, who's your favorite team and driver? It's okay.
I'm sure many people will not like to hear this.
You're among friends.
I'm Team Red Bull and Max Verstappen, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the first race? What was the first race you went to?
So this is quite far back. It was in 1999. There was a month, I think it was in August of 1999, that there were 3 back-to-back races, 3 races in 1 month. So there was the German GP in Hockenheim, then there was Hungarian GP, Hungaroring, and Spa in Belgium. So those were the 3 that I did. Luckily, at least I had the 1 month to just move around. And at that time, with the EU thing, it was easy to just do the commute from the UK. You could easily just drop in and do the tube and find yourself, in those 3 venues. So those were the 3 ones that I did. Then in 2000. Which was sort of an outlier, sort of experimental. So I managed to do Monaco, but only FP3, because of course getting into FP2 and the race is virtually impossible if you're coming from where I was coming from. So yeah, so I just managed to do the track walk, and of course just a glimpse of FP3. Of course went back because I didn't have the tickets for the subsequent days.
Okay,
but it was quite a good experience. I think all of them. I think every Formula One race has its own story, and of course there's always the dynamics behind it, the experience, the cities that are hosting. So I think it's just a good thing to experience. So I wouldn't say I have a favorite circuit that I can go to many times. I think for me it's just the experience behind it and getting to learn new things about those cities.
Okay. I'll confess I'm a Ferrari fan, and for us, 98, 99, 2000 were very epic years because we were climbing a mountain, which I think eventually reached in 99 and 2000, and then we had about half a decade. So I think those were all monumental races. I wish you had gone to Nuremberg the year after, I think when Barrichello won his first race. But no, those are all classic races, and I think we should go look for them on YouTube.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think even my support for Red Bull is just a recent thing. I was basically a Ferrari guy. I just decided to start cutting my losses. But deep down, I'm a Ferrari guy. So in terms of support, deep down, so Ferrari, McLaren, then Williams. I tend to like Williams currently. I don't know why. I think there's something good going on there. And of course, Red Bull, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in terms of Australia, how about those races? What is before we go to Australia, what is the first car you saw on track?
So the first car I saw on track in the previous races, or just this one in Australia?
In the previous races.
The previous races, the McLaren.
The McLaren.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those were the Mika Hakkinen days. And you could just see this thing and I was like, this is really amazing. But of course, at that time, I think Ferrari had it in terms of branding. So their marketing and branding bit was quite strong. So of course, it could easily just, swallow anyone else who's on that track in terms of visibility and the look of those cars. So in first car, yes, McLaren, but the car that really struck a point was Ferrari.
Okay.
Yeah.
What takes you to Australia?
Yeah, so Australia, my family is based there.
Okay.
They relocated there a few years back. So it's always, my go-to place because I need to, keep in touch with them and visit them. So I always, make time to go there and try as much as possible to make it coincide with the race. So that's why I was there last year, luckily during the race week. I was actually supposed to go this year, but of course, because of work, exigencies, I couldn't not be able to manage. But still, I'll go there and just experience the city and visit loved ones there. Thank you.
Yeah. What's the city like the rest of the year? Because this is a street. It's a street track which is put together for 1 week of the year. But what's that part of Melbourne like the rest of the year?
So remember, the circuit is within Albert Park, which is a public park. So sort of a very popular recreational point in Melbourne, and being close proximity to the beach and of course to the city center, quite a popular place. And you find guys just leisure, guys taking walks and enjoying anything that you'd want to see in a properly arranged park. So quite a busy location. But again, of course, it just takes a different shape when it is race week. I think it's one of the fastest circuits on the calendar. And of course, the experience around everyone coming in from everywhere, seeing the buzz around the circuit and the city, it's quite an experience. And of course, at that time when the race is held, it's just a transition into autumn from summer. So weather is a bit not up there, but also not bad. So you're just transitioning into autumn. So it's quite friendly from my view. I didn't really struggle adapting to that particular environment. And of course, even getting around the city was quite easy because from where my family stays, I only did a train into Melbourne Central. Then from Melbourne Central train station, there are free trams that takes you to the circuit from whichever gate that you want to go through. So I think it's quite well organized in terms of that logistics bit, because if you're a new person in a new city, I think the biggest challenge is always how am I going to move around? But I found it so easy, I didn't even need to ask anyone. It was quite easy to navigate through. Yeah, and of course the life around Melbourne. It's a multicultural city. A very lovely beach. There's a place called St Kilda just next to the circuit. Quite a nice place. The evening life and of course it just comes alive when after the race. Everyone flocks to St Kilda and there are very nice street bars, street food joints. So quite a good experience after the race. Yeah.
The way you tell it, we want to be there.
Yeah, it's just a 21-hour flight from here. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Have you been able to persuade any of your friends to try the trip with you?
Not yet. But the friends I have done a few of the races. And of course, you will always talk about your experiences. So not really in terms of convincing, but just trying to exchange our experiences in the different circuits that we've been able to go to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you meet many Kenyans there in terms of, and do you have a favorite part of the track you go to, or seating area or stand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's even a Kenyan friend of mine. It's called Charles. Charles is actually a marshal. He's even marshalling this year at Melbourne. And of course Melbourne, Australia with Kenyans, it's synonymous. So there are so many Kenyans there, but I didn't get to to meet anyone during the race. I think at that point you're just focused on your own trajectory. So that's just how it is. And of course, I think for me, I went through gate 2, which was an access to the hill stand and the Daniel Ricciardo stand. So you're actually just a few meters away from the first stand, because that is on turn 3, between turn 3 and 4. That's where I managed to get my sitting space. So it was quite advantage point of view. I think at some point we had a few incidences and that at turn 3 and 4. So at least being able to see that in real time was quite a good experience.
I think yesterday's race was quite dramatic in terms of red flags and crashes at the beginning and the end. And you were able to see most of those.
Exactly. I think that track had a lot of attrition. I think how many cars went out? I think close to 8, I think close to 8. It was the attrition was quite high. And of course, you read about and you listen to the commentaries from, the experienced Formula One commentators. You'll be able to understand the track keeps evolving. From the first day to the race day is totally different. So I think those dynamics also come into play. And of course, a slight mistake by someone being a very fast track, of course, just sends everyone, spiraling if you get it wrong. So quite an eventful track, and hoping to see more action, because that's what we go for, just to see how the race evolves, and if getting an outlier coming through and being on the podium or something, because that's what we'd want to see, as opposed to going there with a view of Red Bull will just win. So I think we love seeing action.
What would you advise somebody who wants to, they've heard you talk very well now and they want to say Melbourne 2025, I want to be there. What would you advise them to do in terms of preparation, organizing themselves?
I think the basic thing is usually the ticket bit. You'll be shocked that those tickets get sold out way before the race. So it's not like here in Kenya that you'll buy it and be like a day or two, you will get a ticket to wherever, or you'll be able to hustle around for a ticket. And because those countries are so organized, things are planned well in advance. I think the basic thing is just to secure your ticket first. Of course, with the travel arrangements also at the back of your mind, and just get there. I talked about the logistics, quite easy to just move around and find your way to the track, not far off from the CBD. Infrastructure quite good in terms of the logistics of moving around. So quite easy to navigate and quite easy to just find a comfort zone for yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, look forward to doing that.
Yeah.
As a Red Bull fan, we talked about December 12, 2021, the day the Earth shook. Of course, Mercedes fans will say the Earth was pushed. But you were actually there in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, I was there in 2021. And of course, it was an unexpected race. I think from the beginning, no one knew that Max will come through and win that race. I think all eyes were on Lewis, breaking that record and winning that race. So, of course, again, a very eventful race up to the wire. Unfortunately for Mercedes fans, I think it was the biggest heartbreak. I think sometimes you meet Mercedes fans and you are tempted to bring that conversation. You're just like, you know what? There's no point for me to bring it up. For most people, it raises PTSD. Yes. Because there was a very big expectation in terms of the milestone that Lewis was going to achieve on that particular day. Then just that being thrown away at the very last. Of course, depending on which side you stand on, some will say controversial. Others who are on the other side will be like, probably it was a fair race that, no one knew how it was going to unfold. But again, you can't also water down the achievement that Hamilton, has been able to achieve in Formula One. So quite unfortunate at that particular point. You actually feel it for the fans and even for the driver himself. That was going to be a very momentous race, but again, it just turned out the way it was. And happy that Red Bull won on my end. And that was the beginning of just seeing what Max was capable of doing. And of course, they've been unstoppable ever since. And for me, my prediction is probably 2 years, 3 years, probably that's when we would have start seeing probably someone else emerge. But I think the trajectory that Red Bull is currently on is just quite unstoppable. I think for this season, probably our hope is in Ferrari to try and see and disturb that stability that's within Red Bull, and of course the happenings on the sidelines. Yeah,
Okay.
But yeah, let's just see how the season unfolds.
Max 2021, you won 10 races, then you went to 15 the next year, and 19 last year, and he's won the first 2 this year. But off the track, Red Bull has had a lot of news, which is still a developing story even today. What do you think about the leadership dynamics of Red Bull now, and if that's likely to have an impact on their performance this season?
I think slightly, because remember, Formula One is so technical, and of course people have their own ambitions and their own goals. And the way sportsmen are wired can easily shut down whichever part that can be an impediment. So I think from a driver's point of view, if Red Bull continue giving Max Verstappen the car that he needs to have, they will continue dominating. I think the side shows, of course, now if things go the way guys are looking at going because of the controversies that are happening, of course that effect can never be immediate. It's probably a year, 2 years, because of probably change of leadership and another management style and how to just package everything together. So I think still with my prediction of 2 to 3 years maybe. But I think again, you look at the way that organization is structured, high performing organization, very good budget in terms of their backing. So, of course, we don't expect them to struggle at one point in the near future. And, of course, the expertise that they have. You have Adrian Newey there, who's the best F1 designer. And, of course, that's actually the anchor for that particular team. So, for me, I'll only be worried if Adrian leaves. And then that throws everything, up in the air. But as long as that anchor is there, I think they will continue producing the results and producing the car, in the foreseeable future. But of course, we it's always good to have competition, and I like what Ferrari is doing. They've really come up strong this year, and even for this race, I think they might cause some discomfort. They might cause some discomfort to Red Bull this weekend.
We pray for that.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 2 decades, Adrian Newey has been the story of F1 for the teams he's gone to, Williams, McLaren, Red Bull, and the dominance. And even this week, there are stories about him. I think people were linking him to Ferrari, but I just saw a story yesterday, even might be Aston Martin morph into a new team with him and probably even Max. And after Hamilton moving, I think there's a lot more movement expected this year. What do you think the grid will look like next year?
I think too early, but definitely is gonna be a big change because remember, Carlos needs to move. So what happens and where? Of course, that starts creating that ripple effect on everyone, and of course. The expectation is that the grid will be very different next year, apart from the teams that seems to have some sort of stability in their driver lineup. The McLaren, I think they have a good stability there. Williams, I think they have some good stability. I think we are going to see a lot of changes. But then again, we can't forget the guys who are coming through from the next level, GP2.
Okay.
We saw what Olivier did in place of Carlos Sainz in the last race. So there's also cognizant of the fact that there's also some talent that is going to come through from that particular end, which again destabilizes the whole grid as it is right now. So I think a lot of changes are going to happen. Guys are just settling into the new regulations, and of course, starting to see where they want to be and having their plans. I think we'll see some good changes there, and that's good for the sport. Yep.
Do you have similar instances in Polo where somebody has like a Max Verstappen type of horse, which is faster than everybody? Are there egos involved where if I'm the star and I should have that horse. Are there similar instances?
Let me tell you, that happens every time. Because apart from player skill, and which is basically proper riding skills and proper ball control and checking your man, the horse is quite important. So the faster your horse, the more you're used to it, the better chances that you'll dominate play. So it's actually same view as Formula One. You have better horses, you'll play better. You have worse horses, definitely you'll be left behind, and of course you start becoming a liability to your team. So that the horses really are important in polo, just the same way a cow would be important in Formula One. And the most interesting part, Limo, among my horses, my best horse is called Ferrari. Yeah, my best horse currently is called Ferrari. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this weekend we have the Australian Grand Prix at Melbourne. It's the third race of the season. We have had 2 races, 2 Red Bull 1-2s, very easy. What's your prediction for this weekend?
I think we'll still see Red Bull domination. But again, I don't think it will be a 1-2. So my prediction would be Max, Charles Leclerc, then a Perez in the mix there. So that would be my prediction for the weekend for the top 3. But again, it just depends on who gets hooked up well during quali. But again, also the carnage that we expect in turn 1 during the race. So I think for me, I'll go for Red Bull winning with that discomfort from Ferrari, because we know the form that they are in and the car that they've produced this year. They should be able to challenge Red Bull in the weekend's race.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a morning activity for us this weekend. I think practice on Friday at 8, Saturday qualifying, and the race on Sunday at 7. What's your usual hangout in Nairobi? Where do we find you if you want to watch the race with you, Kelvin?
I tend to be a homebody, so most of the time I'd watch from home. But when, of course, there's always that time you just feel like, let me watch with guys. I think for me, would be Kengeles. Kengeles is usually a good hangout to just watch Formula One. It's a good experience there. I think for the longest, you get into the entrance of Kengeles, you'll see the board, the leaderboard and the points and everything. So it just shows you the commitment of that club to Formula One. So Kengeles it is. And I think, especially the races that are in the afternoon, evening. But for Melbourne and the early morning races at home, it's much easier in terms of moving around.
Yeah, Kengeles is a true sports pub, and I'll probably bump into you there. Maybe not this weekend, but at a future race. Thank you so much, Kelvin. Thank you so much, SemaBOX, for this session. We're recording at the Baraza Media Lab today on Riverside Drive with Sunny. And please follow the Motor Life F1 podcast. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Kelvin is at Jumba Kelvin on Twitter and also on Instagram.
Yes, I'm also on Instagram. My user is KJ Ligina.
KJ Ligina.
Yeah, that's my username on Instagram. Not a busy page though, but I think it's also interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, fans, for listening to us today. Please follow the Motor Life F1 podcast on Spotify and all your other platforms. Have a nice race on Sunday and see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you. And of course, hoping that all of you enjoy the race on Sunday. Thank you.